National Institute of Banking and Finance, subsidiary of State Bank of Pakistan. We are actually trying to take NIBAF to a different level now, and with the introduction of Specialized Training Institute. So we are working on various areas so that we develop our skills in terms of content development, in structural design, in areas of assessments where we can specialize. We are already conducting a lot of pre-induction programs, soft skills training, and various related training, which we want to enhance it to a different level. And we want to mainly focus towards the banking and finance industry and work specialized courses in those things.
हमारे पास जो फैसिलिटीज हम प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, इसमें हमारे पास ट्रेनिंग हॉल्स हैं, हमारे पास वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हम लोग ऑफर कर रहे होते हैं, 120 रूम्स की हॉस्टल फैसिलिटी मौजूद है जो आप ट्रेनिंग के लिए आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। तो हमारे पास वेल इक्विप्ड IT लैब्स मौजूद हैं, 2 लाहौर इस्लामाबाद में, 1 लाहौर में, 1
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. मेरा नाम रियाज चुनारा है. I am the Managing Director of National Institute of Banking and Finance, subsidiary of State Bank of Pakistan. We are actually trying to take NIBAF to a different level now, and with the introduction of Specialized Training Institute. So we are working on various areas so that we develop our skills in terms of content development, in structural design, in areas of assessments where we can specialize. We are already conducting a lot of pre-induction programs, soft skills training, and various related training, which we want to enhance it to a different level. And we want to mainly focus towards the banking and finance industry and work specialized courses in those things.
जो फैसिलिटीज़ हम प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, इसमें हमारे पास ट्रेनिंग हॉल्स हैं, हमारे पास वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हम लोग ऑफर कर रहे होते हैं, 120 रूम्स की हॉस्टल फैसिलिटी मौजूद है जो आप ट्रेनिंग के लिए आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। और हमारे पास वेल इक्विप्ड IT लैब्स मौजूद हैं, 2 लाहौर इस्लामाबाद में, 1 लाहौर में, 1 कराची के अंदर है, जहाँ पर जो है IT रिलेटेड बहुत सारे ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स हम अरेंज कर रहे होते हैं। ये ट्रेनिंग सोल्यूशंस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए एक अहम कंपोनेंट के तौर पर काम आ रहे होते हैं।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. मेरा नाम रियाज चुनारा है. I am the Managing Director of National Institute of Banking and Finance, subsidiary of State Bank of Pakistan. We are actually trying to take NIBAF to a different level now, and with the introduction of Specialized Training Institute. So we are working on various areas so that we develop our skills in terms of content development, in structural design, in areas of assessments where we can specialize. We are already conducting a lot of pre-induction programs, soft skills training, and various related training, which we want to enhance it to a different level. And we want to mainly focus towards the banking and finance industry and work specialized courses in those things.
जो फैसिलिटीज़ हम प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, इसमें हमारे पास ट्रेनिंग हॉल्स हैं, हमारे पास वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हम लोग ऑफर कर रहे होते हैं। 120 रूम्स की हॉस्टल फैसिलिटी मौजूद है जो आप ट्रेनिंग के लिए आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। हमारे पास वेल इक्विप्ड आईटी लैब्स मौजूद हैं, 2 लाहौर इस्लामाबाद में, 1 लाहौर में, 1 कराची के अंदर है, जहाँ पर जो है आईटी रिलेटेड बहुत सारे ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स हम अरेंज कर रहे होते हैं। ये ट्रेनिंग सॉल्यूशंस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए एक अहम कंपोनेंट के तौर पर काम आ रहे होते हैं।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. मेरा नाम रियाज चुनारा है. I am the managing director of National Institute of Banking and Finance, subsidiary of State Bank of Pakistan. We are actually trying to take NIBAF to a different level now, and with the introduction of Specialized Training Institute. So we are working on various areas so that we develop our skills in terms of content development, in structural design, in areas of assessments where we can specialize. We are already conducting a lot of pre-induction programs, soft skills training, and various aided training, which we want to enhance it to a different level. And we want to mainly focus towards the banking and finance industry and work specialized courses in those things.
हमारे पास जो फैसिलिटीज़ हम प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, इसमें हमारे पास ट्रेनिंग हॉल्स हैं, हमारे पास वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हम लोग ऑफर कर रहे होते हैं। 120 रूम्स की हॉस्टल फैसिलिटी मौजूद है जो आप ट्रेनिंग के लिए आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। हमारे पास वेल इक्विप्ड आईटी लैब्स मौजूद हैं, 2 लाहौर इस्लामाबाद में, 1 लाहौर में, 1 कराची के अंदर है, जहाँ पर जो है आईटी रिलेटेड बहुत सारे ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स हम अरेंज कर रहे होते हैं। ये ट्रेनिंग सॉल्यूशंस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए एक अहम कंपोनेंट के तौर पर काम आ रहे होते हैं।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. मेरा नाम रियाज चुनारा है. I am the managing director of National Institute of Banking and Finance, subsidiary of State Bank of Pakistan. We are actually trying to take NIBAF to a different level now, and with the introduction of Specialized Training Institute. So we are working on various areas so that we develop our skills in terms of content development, in structural design, in areas of assessments where we can specialize. We are already conducting a lot of pre-induction programs, soft skills training, and various aided training, which we want to enhance it to a different level. And we want to mainly focus towards the banking and finance industry and work specialized courses in those things.
हमारे पास जो फैसिलिटीज़ हम प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, इसमें हमारे पास ट्रेनिंग हॉल्स हैं, हमारे पास वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हम लोग ऑफर कर रहे होते हैं। 120 रूम्स की हॉस्टल फैसिलिटी मौजूद है जो आप ट्रेनिंग के लिए आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। हमारे पास वेल इक्विप्ड आईटी लैब्स मौजूद हैं, 2 लाहौर इस्लामाबाद में, 1 लाहौर में, 1 कराची के अंदर है, जहाँ पर जो है आईटी रिलेटेड बहुत सारे ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स हम अरेंज कर रहे होते हैं। ये ट्रेनिंग सॉल्यूशंस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए एक अहम कंपोनेंट के तौर पर काम आ रहे होते हैं।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. मेरा नाम रियाज चुनारा है. I'm the managing director of National Institute of Banking and Finance, subsidiary of State Bank of Pakistan. We are actually trying to take NIBAF to a different level now, and with the introduction of Specialized Training Institute. So we are working on various areas so that we develop our skills in terms of content development, in structural design, in areas of assessments where we can specialize. We are already conducting a lot of pre-induction programs, soft skills training, and various aided training, which we want to enhance it to a different level. And we want to mainly focus towards the banking and finance industry and work specialized courses in those things.
हमारे पास जो फैसिलिटीज़ हम प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, इसमें हमारे पास ट्रेनिंग हॉल्स हैं, हमारे पास वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हम लोग ऑफर कर रहे होते हैं. 120 रूम्स की हॉस्टल फैसिलिटी मौजूद है जो आप ट्रेनिंग के लिए आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. हमारे पास वेल इक्विप्ड IT लैब्स मौजूद हैं, 2 लाहौर इस्लामाबाद में, 1 लाहौर में, 1 कराची के अंदर है, जहाँ पर जो है IT रिलेटेड बहुत सारे ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स हम अरेंज कर रहे होते हैं. ये ट्रेनिंग सोल्यूशंस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए एक अहम कंपोनेंट के तौर पर काम आ रहे होते हैं.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can you please confirm me if you can hear me and see me? Okay, great. So I think it's 2:30 and we'll start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and a very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of National Institute of Banking and Finance, I welcome you all to this webinar, topic of which is Decentralized Finance, NFTs, and the Metaverse, Islamic Finance Use Cases. This webinar is being organized by NIBAF in collaboration with Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance. As all of you are aware, that NIBAF is the training subsidiary of State Bank of Pakistan, aimed at capacity building of human prowess of not only our own country, but other countries in the region as well. We are also conducting courses for capacity building of entire financial sector in Pakistan. NIBAF conducts workshops, seminars, webinars, talks on in different areas of commercial banking, emerging trends, and issues of topical interest. NIBAF is playing its role in promoting Islamic banking in the country by offering various courses in Islamic banking and finance. We are the pioneer institute in Pakistan who started offering 3-week certification course in Islamic banking. And we have also recently launched a postgraduate diploma course in collaboration with IM Sciences Institute, Peshawar. NIBAF is also offering crash courses in IOFI Sharia standards, and we're soon going to launch a certificate course in Sharia audit as well. Other than these programs, NIBAF is regularly offering 5 days training program on fundamentals of Islamic banking, then 3 days program on Islamic banking branch operations. NIBAF and other short duration programs as well from time to time. NIBAF has joined hands with globally renowned Islamic finance institutes, and Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance is one of those institutes, which is affiliated with the Central Bank of Bahrain. BIBF, generally known as BIBF. BIBF is generally is offering range of Islamic banking certificate courses, and these programs are of different durations and for different target audience. NIBAF is representative of BIBF in Pakistan, and we have recently launched Advanced Diploma in Islamic Finance, which is a distance learning initiative of BIBF. And as I mentioned earlier, today's webinar is also a joint collaboration with BIBF, and we are honored to have Mr. Mujtaba Khalid as our esteemed panelist for today's webinar. Presently, I'll give a brief introduction of Mr. Mujtaba. He's heading the Center for Islamic Finance at BIBF, and his past experience includes working for the UK-based Islamic Finance Council, where he was involved in developing the Islamic finance governance framework for central bank bodies. Then he has also been involved in conducting Islamic finance training and capacity building programs, structuring Islamic finance products, providing investment strategy for Islamic Relief International Work Fund, research for the Scottish government on the viability of sukuks to fund alternate energy projects, among his other work. He has also helped to establish the Center of Islamic Finance at ComSats, Pakistan, which is one of the largest public sector universities in Pakistan. This was the brief introduction. Before I request Mr. Mujtaba to share his insights on today's topic, I'll request everyone to post their questions that they have in the Q&A session that we'll be taking in the end. We'll first Mr. Mujtaba will present his presentation for around 60 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So now, without any further ado, over to you, sir. Mujtaba Saab. Sir, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Yes, I have. Thank you, Ms. Sadaf, for the introduction. It is an honor and pleasure to be presenting for NIBAF again. Wasim Saab, thank you for having me. As Ms. Sadaf mentioned, BIBF is the training and consultancy arm of the Central Bank of Bahrain, and it is the oldest Islamic finance professional qualification provider in the world. We've launched last year, and inshallah this year it'll be a more concentrated effort on the ADF, the Advanced Diploma in Islamic Finance, which is the oldest qualification in Islamic finance, and it's the only Islamic finance professional qualification in the world with a fast-track progression route into a UK MSc or MBA and into the IOF SEPA program. And it's also, and what you see later on is we launched an NFT linked to the ADF, which was very interesting, and we became the first ever NFT use case in education in the world. That was done last month. So it's an interesting topic we have today. And when I was approached to do this topic, and in 1 hour, please bear with me in 1 hour, because when I was making these slides, I had to do an assessment of how I should make it. Should I make it too technical, or should I make it just an overview? Given that some people might know the topic a lot, some people might have no clue about the topic. But then what I did was I have some technical elements and some overview elements. So after this talk, if I have enabled you to ask questions on how to do things differently, how to leverage off these mediums, then I would think that this talk is more of a success. If I had more time, if I was physically there, I would love to engage. Obviously during Rosé, shayad tana karta, but if it was not Ramadan, I love engaging with the people. So yes, as Ms. Sadaf said, please ask questions in the chat box. I will try to look at the chat box, but because we have so much to cover, excuse me if I don't look at the chat box. But inshallah, we will have at the end half an hour to do the Q&A session. So I presume you can see my slides. This is the BIBF building, by the way. So we moved here end of last year. So just wanted to highlight that. So setting the scene. So how do we go about into this vast topic? So what I wanted to do was, because A, this is a vast topic. B, I wanted to do related to Islamic banking. So what I wanted to do was set the scene for Islamic banking, where the Islamic finance and banking and finance industry is currently, why technology matters for the Islamic banking and finance industry, and then we move on to more of the technical stuff. So if you look at this is taken from the State of the Global Islamic Finance Economy or Islamic Economy Report by Refinitiv 2021. This is the latest report. And if you look that by 2020, so over the past 5 or 6 years, Islamic banking has done okay. I mean, it's seen growth, but nothing compared to what it saw in the last decade, the previous decade. So it has been growing. Currently, it's estimated to be valued at about 3.3 to 3.45 trillion dollars. 70% does represent of the Islamic finance industry, 70% represent Islamic banking. So Islamic banking represents majority, and then Sukuk also represents 19%. So about 90% is represented by 2 asset classes or 2 verticals. And that's where I think you can't underestimate the importance of innovation. Because if these 2 don't move forward, the industry stagnates. So that's number 1. Islamic banking needs to be innovative because it is the Islamic finance industry. Now, so sorry, before I go into this, now it's projected to go to about $4 to $5 trillion by 2025. I personally think this is an underestimate. I think it's going to be much more than this in the coming 3 to 4 years. And I have my reason, which I want to put forward. If you look at the Islamic banking industry, you see that there's a positive correlation, a positive relationship between commodities, commodity prices, and Islamic banking, the growth of the Islamic finance industry. The last time the Islamic finance industry, or the time where Islamic finance, the Islamic finance industry grew exponentially, was around 2004-5 till about 2010, where it peaked, right? And if you look at this time frame, another very interesting thing happened, which was the commodity super cycle. I mean, around 2008-9, oil hit $100+ a barrel, $100 a barrel, and that's where the commodity prices shot up. And if you look at the industries which drive the Islamic finance industry, if you look at the jurisdictions, the countries which drive the Islamic finance industry, most of them are based on commodities. You've got the GCC, which is based on oil. You've got Malaysia, Indonesia, again, based on crude palm oil, based on commodities. Even Pakistan, agriculture is big. Bangladesh as well. So you've got agri-based economy. So a lot of countries that drive the Islamic banking industry are based on commodities. And as you know, where we stand today, we're again entering another commodity super cycle. Goldman Sachs, these are some of the clippings I took 2 weeks ago from some of the recent news outlets. So Goldman Sachs says up 2022 Brent crude oil spot forecast for $135 a barrel. You know, commodity prices have soared to the highest level since 2008. The commodity super cycles, again, people are saying the commodity super cycle is starting. And if you're going to go with past experience, then you know that Islamic finance will also have a positive impact. So that's number one. Islamic finance industry is on a proposed growth trajectory. How do you leverage off that growth, right? So yes, it will grow. Will everyone grow with it? Will all banks grow with it? Maybe not. The industry will grow. Will everyone grow with it? Maybe not. And we'll come on to why that is and how that will happen, right? So the industry is on a growth stage. Where is the industry in its evolution, right? Where is Islamic finance industry at in its DNA or sorts, or whatever you want to call it? So Islamic finance has gone through two iterations, and it's on its third iteration at the moment. Inflection point, iteration, whatever you may call it. The first one, of course, was the initiation stage. That can there be something called an Islamic bank? This was in the 60s or 70s, right? And now it might sound not like a big thing, but in the 60s, banks or 70s, banks were the source of interest, were based on riba, right? So having something called an Islamic bank in itself was a challenge, which was of course overcome by the founding fathers of Islamic banking. So that was the first stage. Can there be something called an Islamic bank? And you had a few Islamic banks that popped up. You had the Islamic Bank, I believe, the first modern Islamic bank. Bahrain Islamic Bank was the third Islamic bank in the world. So you had a few banks that popped up. You had other financial institutions that did come up. Then around, let's say, the 90s, it was the issue of scalability. So yes, you set up Islamic banking. It has survived. These banks, 3-4 branches here, 2-3 branches here within the country have survived. But can it scale? Can it go beyond boundaries? Can it go to multiple branches, hundreds of branches? Can the industry, move from one province to the other, et cetera, et cetera? So this was the second inflection point, scalability. And that, again, we saw was done, managed very well. Of course, there always were, and there always will be snags and hiccups in anything you do, but it was done very well. There was scalability. You have international Islamic banks. You've got Al Baraka Bank, Islamic Bank. You've got Dubai Islamic Bank. You've got Kuwait Finance House with a presence in Germany, Turkey as well. So in non-Muslim jurisdictions as well. So scalability has been addressed as well. And now we're at a third inflection point in the Islamic finance industry, which is what is the global value proposition that Islamic finance brings? or is there a global value proposition? I think there is. Everyone can have their opinion. I think there is a big global value proposition that Islamic banking or finance can bring to the world. Islamic banking and finance, in its core DNA, is ethical finance, right? And this is something that needs to be projected. This is something which needs, because Islamic banking, as you may all know, our professionals, is not limited to Muslims. Islamic banking is an ethical way of finance, which is for Muslims, but not only limited to Muslims. It's open to all, right? So that is where we are at, the global value proposition for Islamic banking. And this can be addressed in many ways. But again, if you look globally at some subsectors of finance, Islamic finance is poised to grow, but what's even going to grow faster and much bigger in size is the whole ethical finance, SRI, social responsible investment, sustainability, that space. That's already picked up, So how can Islamic banking, how can Islamic banks, financial institutions position themselves in this space? And that's where, something called the UN Sustainable Development Goals come in. So you can take a few of these, link a few of your KPIs, your strategy. And by the way, Al Baraka Islamic Bank did this very well 2 years ago. It was the sustainability initiative was headed by another Pakistani brother of ours, Dr. Ali Adnan Ibrahim, and they did a fantastic job. So Al Baraka was an Islamic bank which did, I think they put millions and millions of dollars towards these zero hunger programs, no poverty. So globally, they did an exceptional job, by the way. Ali Bhai did an amazing job. He's moved to Saudi now, so he's no longer with Al Baraka, but Ali Bhai did a great job. So what we can do is we can look at some of these and say, okay, this is what we want to address. This is how we signal to the global market, because we know that the industry is based on ethics, right? How do you position it as a global value proposition for ethics? Some of the things that can be done is, link them to some sustainable development goals. And why is this important? And where does this technology piece fit in? Both can be done. Importance I'll come to, of course, because we said that we want to project it as a global value proposition. But what's even more important is the fact that, technology can be leveraged to do this, which means you don't need a lot of investment, right? If you look at the global Muslim countries, or not Islamic finance, if you look at Muslim countries globally, one of the demographics of our potential customers, majority of our customers are Muslims. Yes, it's open to non-Muslims as well, but majority of our customers are Muslims. Muslims, the median age of Muslims is 24 years. Globally, that's 32, and the global average is 32. And if you take developing countries, Western developing countries, it's even older, right? If you take out Africa, the global average drops significantly. So developed Western countries have an even higher median age, but Muslims, on the other hand, are a younger demographic. So you already have young people who are good with technology, and one would assume younger people are more good with technology. If you look at 15 of the top 50 countries with smartphone penetrations are again Islamic economies. So you've got a young population. 15 of the top 50 countries which have smartphone penetration, high smartphone penetration, are Muslims. On the flip side, 72% of the unbanked population. Sorry, I've got two screens. I should have said this in the beginning. I've got two screens, so my slides are here as well. So I'm just looking. So please excuse me. Don't think that I'm just looking there. I have two screens. So I look at my screen sometimes there as well. So if you look at 72% of the unbanked population. Now, unbanked or financial disinclusion means that people who don't have access to financial products, at least organized financial products, not loan sharks, but organized financial products. And Pakistan, unfortunately, lies very low in this list. If you look at multiple studies that have been done by the World Bank or other development bodies, there is a positive correlation between high levels of financial inclusion and economic growth. So one of the things that policymakers, a quick win for policymakers can be, addressing this. to deal with economic development, you know. So that's number. So I'm going to now go into the Pakistan perspective. Pakistan has a young, as we all know, a very young population. Again, it can be a positive. It is a positive, but it can be a negative if some things are not done properly, right? But it is a positive. Generally, globally, a young population is seen as a positive. You know, it has good smartphone penetration, and it has a high population which is unbanked. So the growth of Islamic finance, and of course, the majority of the people in Pakistan are Muslims, the growth of the Islamic finance offering and Islamic finance offering, which is tech-based or mobile-based, is high, right? The potential growth for this offering is high. If I go on to state bank numbers, so this is from the state. On the left, you have from a report called the Islamic FinTech Report 2020, which ranked among Muslim countries Pakistan at 9th in the ranking as a Muslim country fintech leader. Personally, I think Pakistan should rank much higher because it has so many people. If you look outside Pakistan, a lot of people working in the Islamic banking industry. IOFI, again, the head of IOFI, the Secretary General of IOFI, our brother Umar Mustafa Ansari is Pakistani. We've got many Pakistanis advising central banks on Islamic finance. IIFM, the head of the Secretary General of IIFM and the International Islamic Financial Markets, again, Pakistani. We had the IRA, the International Islamic Rating Agency, head of that is our sister, who's Pakistani. IDB, one of the very senior executives, a lot of senior executives are Pakistani. So they are. IFSB had the Deputy Secretary General previously, he was from Pakistan as well. So we have a lot of people in the industry. We have, even if you look at the tech side, we have a lot of people. So potential is there. There's a lot of potential in this. So I think it should be much higher. But back to the numbers. This is from the State Bank Payment System quarterly reports, right? So if you look at Q1 financial year 2017, and this is volume is in millions and the value is in billions of Pak rupees, right? So the volume in quarter one of financial year 2017 was 135 million. But if you look at quarter one financial year 2022, e-banking rose to 361.6 million in terms of volume, the amount of transactions that happened, which is a big growth over 3-4 years, you know. Mobile banking users increased from first quarter, from quarter one of 21 to quarter one of 22, rose by 11 mobile banking users, rose by 11.3 million, which is a 41% increase in the same quarter. I can assure you that very few countries have this huge growth. So the potential, and that's why you see a lot of money coming from outside into fintechs in Pakistan or startups in Pakistan, because the potential for growth is considerable. Because unfortunately, it didn't grow as it should compared to the other countries around it. But now the potential for growth is catching up, right? It's catching up pretty fast. Mobile transactions. So the value were worth 2,161 billion rupees, which is a 138% increase from the same quarter last year. It's significant. It's pretty significant. So we have a young population. We have something which is growing, right? How do we leverage off this? Well, there is a learning. There is a case which we've seen it happen in the past. So this is M-Pesa, which is the pioneer when it comes to mobile payments in developing countries. It was started in Kenya in 2007. And within like 4 years or 5 years, within 4 years, 80% of households in Kenya were leverage of this. It started off, जो हमारे पुराने Nokia के phones होते हैं, they started off with that कि मतलब आप इस पर type करें, then you can send money through it, जैसे हम credit top up भेजते हैं अब easy load के through. So easy load is and Jazz Cash and all of this is relatively newer. This started in 2007. Was in Kenya, wasn't very developed in the banking space, right? So this mobile MTN company came up with this solution to send payments electronically. और वही जैसे हम easy load पे जाते हैं वहाँ से पैसे ले सकते हैं अगर कोड कोई भेजे आपको. Exactly the same. People from the cities could send to their relatives in the rural areas. And the growth, so it took Kenya like 20 years to get 80% of the population get access to a radio. Okay, 20 saal. M-Pesa, it took 4 years to reach 80% of the population. Again, the demographics and were more or less the same as Pakistan, i.e. a young population, financial inclusion is low. So this is an example where they leveraged off technology. Now, the interesting thing is now they offer all sorts of solutions. And through smartphone apps, now you can save, you can send money, you can send remittances, you can do all sorts of things in the M-Pesa app. They started off just with easy load type, jo hai na, sending cash, right? But the interesting thing for bankers to think here is, okay, they weren't a financial institution. They were a communications provider. And now they're probably one of the largest players in finance in Africa, right? So our customers have this potential to move away if we don't think on our feet. That's number one. Banking models on their own are facing a threat because, you cannot accommodate all customers with a brick and mortar, which is like हर जगह तो नहीं आप branch बना सकते. कसूर के दूर दराज इलाके या सिंध के किसी दूर दराज इलाके में या बलूचिस्तान में तो branch हो नहीं सकती. मतलब you can have it in Quetta, you can have it in bigger cities, so you can't reach them. So they already are, but वहाँ से काफी लोग, a lot of people do travel from these underdeveloped rural areas into the cities to work. So how will they bank? How will they keep their money? How will they send their money? Already they're using Jazz Cash. Already हम देख चुके हैं जो पिछली slide थी उसमें we saw that mobile payments have increased exponentially, right? So this is something which bankers need to think strategically. Again, the idea of this talk is to leave you thinking strategically rather than technically. Although मैं technical चीजें cover करूँगा, but in 1 hour, a win is when you think strategically. How can you do something with technology? And then take it from there. Do your own thought. What I'm saying can be true, but sometimes things don't work, but do your own thought process. Always encourage people who come to my class to independently analyze things, right? So what I've said, challenge it, maybe what I've said is from my perspective works, but maybe not in the local market. But if anything's to go by experience, so people who don't, read history are doomed to repeat it, so if we don't learn from previous cases, I think we might have some certain issues. So Abhi JazzCat, I'm pretty sure that the State Bank will issue digital banking licenses. Pretty sure one of these mobile communicators will delve into this. I mean, Telenor already has a microfinance bank. So there are things happening, and now imagine if Telenor gets a digital banking license, right? It already has a user base which is using its services, and it's considered obviously Jazz ki tarah nahi hai, Telenor ki market size kam hai, but it doesn't mean कि छोटा है, right? So you start providing them with banking services, so you're already start taking, it's an easy win. And this is where bankers need to think, how do you change the current model, right? Moving on. When we talk about digital transformation and all of that, right? A lot of people say, yeah, देखो Nokia tha, BlackBerry tha, they couldn't, they did this wrong, they didn't do this right, and now look where they are. But on the flip side, no one says that, okay, there were some companies who did do things right, and now look where they are, right? So I used to use the BlackBerry Nokia examples, but I realized everyone uses that. So I've started using the opposite, right? Rather than saying, okay, yeah, they didn't do something right, so now they're not existent. I go with, look, this company did something right, and now look where they are. So, and we're talking about Apple. I personally am a Samsung user, so I don't need, let's just leave it at that. But we come on to Apple. Apple is one of the most, if not the most, Aramco ke IPO ke baad maybe Aramco is, but Apple is from the US perspective, the most valuable company, hit $2 trillion, I believe, first company to do so, and on and on. It was built as so it was established by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in the 80s out of their garage. And in 85, it was seen as a rebellious newcomer, a startup, a potential unicorn. A unicorn is $1 billion startup, by the way, for people who don't know. Aajkal jo kehte hain na unicorn, inshallah, I pray that Pakistan gets its first unicorn. And it could be potentially in the fintech space, by the way. You can, I know this is recorded. I think the first Pakistani unicorn most likely will be in the fintech space, financial technology space, giving access to people, giving financial access to people in remote areas. This is recorded, right? So you had which had a 12% share of the.
Mujtaba sir, can you please see the first, question?
Ji sir. What? Sorry, let me see. How do I get the first question here? Okay, so wasn't he supposed to talk? Yes, I am coming on to that. This is like literally my second last slide. I am supposed to be talking on that, and I will.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. So nice of you.
Like I said, I'm building the space of why it's important. I can just start saying what they are, but if we have to talk about what Islamic banking is, we have to understand why it's important for Islamic banking. I'm just building it towards that, and I will come on to that. So don't worry, stay with me here. And I think I did say that in the beginning of this.
Yes, you said.
Okay, so this is Apple. So again, this is the idea of what we're bringing on is transformation, and how banks need to change their business model or might need to think on certain lines. So Apple, quickly on this slide, what I wanted to highlight was it went to near extinction by 2000. And Microsoft completely dominated it. Its business mix was mostly the Apple Mac, which was a PC computer. But then it went into a redefinition from a computing company. It went to a consumer technology company. It went to defining great consumer experiences. That's what Steve Jobs says. Steve Jobs used to say, being big on consumer experiences. And that's where financial industries should think on, not just providing a solution or a service, but being good on or great in consumer experiences. So again, that's where I'll stop at this, but this is where I wanted to set the scene. You've got a growing Islamic finance landscape. You've got in Pakistan, you've got potential because there's low levels of financial inclusion and so on and so forth. And how you address it is maybe go on the consumer experience side. Now, DeFi, right? Now I'll jump to DeFi, but again, we're going to go from the beginning. What is a bank? Again, I know you're all professionals, but just setting tone. A bank is an intermediary, deals with cash, deals with people who have money, acts as a middleman, gives money in terms of loans, business and asset financing, gives it out to people and rents it out and gets a percentage, which is called interest. Obviously, Islamic banks make profit, gets interest, gets the money, takes a part of that and gives it to the people who have banked with them. The underlying contract of all of this, or the underlying arrangement, is trust. That these individuals and businesses, these individuals and businesses, they put their money in a bank because based on trust, right? That you don't know who you're giving out a loan or financing to, so you probably have to find someone, you have to find someone trustworthy, you have to do that process. You don't want to do the whole credit analysis process. That is the main function of a bank. It's based on trust. But what we saw in 2008, and that's around where DeFi or your crypto really took off. You saw that there were some, if not most financial institutions that made many mistakes. And of course, in the US, you saw that there was the economy was heating up. You had the highest level of difference between household debt and personal savings, as you can see. So debt was increasing almost to 100% of the GDP. Personal savings were at an all-time low. Banks were giving out loan like candy, basically. They were giving out something called ninja loans, which is no income, no jobs, no asset. We'll still give you a loan. And why was this? Excuse me. This was because the model of bonuses given to bankers were based on the amount of loans they gave out, not on the quality of loans that were given out, if that makes sense. So they would just give out loans upon loans, but the quality wasn't checked. And something interesting also happened here is we saw the advent of securities called CDOs, collateralized debt obligations. So these banks would give out these loans, then package them with good quality loans, get a AAA rating on these securities, and sell them off. And then the people who are buying it would sell them off. The investment banks would sell them off, and then they would also sell them off. And then they would also credit default swaps, which were like a bet that these won't default. Right, so we had multiple financial engineering products. I don't want to go into detail of those, but the idea was they were packaging these bad quality loans with good quality loans, and then the security would be AAA rated, get AAA rating, so the risk would be less, and these would be easily bought by other customers. But what we saw was that these ninja loans, so to say, started to default. Right? Of course, this was going to happen. Something was going to give, right? And eventually, the stock market crash happened. People lost their houses. People lost their savings. There were pensioners who lost a lot of money. There were jobs that were lost. And of course, this started from the US, but it had a domino effect, and that led to the global financial crisis. And around that time, there was a very interesting paper by a Mr. Satoshi Nakamoto that came out, which was Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And this, what it basically said was it introduced the idea of a blockchain. So basically, don't get me wrong, there were other proposals on digital cash before this as well. But just because the scene here was with the 2008 financial crisis and the technology and taking decentralized, the fact of decentralization, this just went well with a lot of people. This was liked by a lot of people, right? And here, what he or they or these number of people, so no one knows, well, there were some court rulings that say that this person is Satoshi, but again, people are still skeptical. But Satoshi basically proposed a decentralized ledger, which is housed not centrally, but in different nodes, and it's immutable. So once something is recorded on that ledger, it cannot be changed, right? So if I do a transaction, through my wallet, which is the public, so mera jo wallet hai, that's connected to my public wallet. Public ka ABC, for example, number hai, you cannot say it's connected to Mujtaba. But if that ABC wallet transacts, sends Bitcoin or whatever, sends Bitcoin to XYZ wallet, jo wo transaction record hui hai us blockchain, us block mein, that cannot be deleted, right? So it's peer-to-peer, so I can give money, send money, receive and send money through this system, not centralized rupees, dollars, anything. Through the system, I can send this money, and the public ledger, it's a publicly available ledger, which is immutable. So yeah, so you've got the trust element, and also it's immutable basically. So this is where it started, right? This is how the advent of Bitcoin came about. And then, there were ups and downs. It wasn't like all of a sudden in 2009, everyone started buying into Bitcoin. It had its ups and downs, but then of course we saw the past 4 or 5 years, Bitcoin really shot up, right? And currently it's still at 40K, but at its peak, I think it touched 66 or 67, if I'm not mistaken, or if not more, and that's where all cryptocurrencies started. You had other players come into the space, right? So what are the components of now DeFi stands for decentralized finance. What are the components of a decentralized finance? First, you need an infrastructure, the blockchain, something to build on the whole structure, right? The language, the housing, or whatever, the infrastructure. And this is where we use something called the Ethereum blockchain. We don't use the Bitcoin blockchain, even though it's the oldest, because it does not allow for something called smart contract. It's not programmable. It can just do one thing, which is send and receive Bitcoins, right? So the Ethereum blockchain allows users to create decentralized apps called dApps. Apps can be anything, and I'll show you how they work. So we'll go into that as well. Through the Ethereum infrastructure, users can write automated codes known as smart contracts, basically a set of instructions that can be triggered if a user does a predetermined action. So for example, when a code likha, if someone puts Ethereum in this app will after 5 days give 0.01% of Ethereum on the principal. That's one very basic example. There are multiple examples, and we'll come on to what that means. As this is the blockchain, right? So it's irreversible, modifiable once deployed and verified on the blockchain. So it's again a public ledger, a public, so to say, ledger, which is irreversible and unmodifiable. So what transaction hogi? So no one can say Mujtaba ne mujhe paise nahi bheje, ye transaction nahi hui, is tarah nahi hui. It's almost instantaneous, and the record of these transactions are there. A solitary smart contract, which is one action, can only be used for one transaction type. If something happens, then something else happens. कि मैंने ये किया, उसकी reaction ये थी कि मतलब आपने कुछ खरीदना है, कुछ करना है, so this is how somewhere it comes to your wallet, for example, right? So that's one solitary smart contract. However, dApps, which are decentralized apps, work by bundling smart contracts together to enable a sophisticated synergetic set of functionalities. So you can, in financial terms, for example, I can put my money into a dApp, which is a portfolio manager, right? तो वो क्या करेगा, पहले आपने रखे उसकी जो fee है थोड़ी सी शायद आपको दे as a joining fee. So that's one smart contract. Then on the back end, the smart contract can be, okay, you take the Ethereum, if it's a portfolio of cryptocurrencies again. So it says, okay, इस बंदे की profile risky है, ठीक है? So he is risk averse, risk neutral, let's say, okay, or risk loving, let's say risk loving. So the dApp will take it to a smart contract which is made specifically for risk loving individuals, which means that it will invest in cryptocurrencies automatically. This is all being done automatically, right, through the smart contracts into cryptocurrencies which are volatile, but which might have a potential high return. Okay. Then another smart contract can be used to say, Acha ji, if the portfolio goes below 60% of the value, take out the money, put it back into the wallet. So these are all different smart contracts put in a dApp of a portfolio management, automated, no human intervention, right? So for example, here in the gray, I've given an example. Smart contracts can be used in real estate, in a real estate deal as well. Both parties, buyer and seller, can create a smart, like I said, the good thing about Ethereum is that it allows the users, to an extent, you need some basic know-how, of course, programming know-how, you know, to do it, but can create a smart contract that can automate it, or that can automate the deal once the buyer pays the property value to the seller. Now, to make all of these happen, the property first needs to be digitized on blockchain technology. So which is the metadata? I will come on to that when you go on to NFTs, what is metadata? And again, when NFTs, we'll see why only having metadata is risky and stuff like that. But for now, let's say it's to be digitized. So don't worry about how to be digitized. We'll come on to that, right? But let's just say first, all the property elements of the property needs to be digitized. And then on the immutable ledger, it will say, Mujtaba Khalid, if I've paid the money for it, owns this property, you know, in London, some flats in London, Mujtaba Khalid owns these. You know, then I probably won't be able to lose the receipt of that, you know, if I own the flats in London. So once done, both parties can carry their deal using smart contracts, right? So that's one, a decentralized infrastructure. Right? That's what it's housed on. Within you need a medium of exchange. What is the money, you know, so to say, to be used in this? What is the medium of exchange? Kis pe hum transaction karenge, right? Ethereum ki jo underlying jo hai coin is called Ether, and that's how it takes the messages across, but it needs to be backed by something to make it less volatile. So again, we can't use Bitcoin. We said it because Bitcoin does not allow smart contracts. So again, Bitcoin isn't used. Ethereum, to an extent, it's volatile. So we won't use Ether, the local currency, so to say, of what do you call it, Ethereum. We won't use that as well. So we don't use it because of volatility issue. Imagine if I put one Ether at 5% after 1 year, and the value of Ethereum goes to increases by 1000%, and it has happened, by the way. So it's not something that is you know, something that is impossible, right? So now someone owes me 5% of a 1000% increase, and so it's very interesting. but we can't do Ether on because it's volatile. So what do? We go for something called stable coins. Now, stable coins are coins which represent or are pegged to the value of real life assets or currencies, like the US dollars. So you have USDT, which is, so one USDT will represent one US dollar. ठीक है, उसकी बैकिंग होगी, फिजिकली पड़ा होगा. अगर मैंने 100 USDT इश्यू किए हैं फॉर एग्जांपल एज ए प्रोग्रामर, तो मैंने पीछे 100 असल US डॉलर्स रखे हुए हैं. ठीक है, so that is one way of doing it. Backed by a commodity, again, you have 100 grams of a metal and उसकी value will मतलब 100 grams अभी buys I think 100, so let's say 100 of a commodity backed token we've issued, and the value of it will determine the value of the coin. If the value of that goes up, the value of the token goes up, और back end में जैसे मैंने डॉलर्स रखे हुए हैं उतनी ही मैंने वो commodity कहीं exchange में या कहीं physically I have ownership of that. Backed by one or more cryptocurrencies, so we can make a pot of cryptocurrencies. We can represent it as saying this portfolio is of cryptocurrencies, and if this goes up, the value of this coin goes up. If this goes down, the value of this coin goes down. So it can be backed by cryptocurrencies, or there can be an algorithmic stable coin. And this is an interesting concept. Now, an algorithmic stable coin is not backed by anything, but the way it works on supply and demand. ठीक है, मैं इशू करता हूँ 100 coins, for example, ठीक है, to the economy, and this is just an example. So think about just understand the concept. 100 coins इशू किए, मैंने कहा हर coin $1 का है, ठीक है, and if I see and this is all done, the algorithm does it. If it sees that the value of the और मैंने कहा कि $1 का ही वो coin रहेगा, ठीक है, अगर value उसकी नीचे जाने लगती है, तो वो automatically it takes out a certain percentage of the coins out of circulation. It burns them, so to say, it takes them out of circulation. So supply and demand, जब supply कम होगी तो demand, so price will start to move up, and vice versa. अगर उसकी price बहुत ऊपर जाने लगती है, so it starts issuing more coins, tokens automatically. This is all done algorithmically, automatically, to make that give $1 का ही एक token है. So that can be done as well. But what we do, or what is recommended, is a crypto-backed one, because what we want is a completely decentralized, system. ठीक है, अगर हम dollar पे करते हैं तो things, it's not decentralized, it's centralized, because the dollar is issued by the US, Federal Reserve. If we do it on commodities, again, that can not be decentralized, because there are certain factors that impact commodities. But cryptocurrencies are definitely decentralized, so we make it decentralized. But how do we deal with the volatility? Remember, I said that there's volatility. So what we do is, this is a decentralized stable coin called as DAI, D-A-I, right? And they're truly decentralized, as not dependent on a central bank. They're over collateralized to deal with this volatility. So if I buy $1 of Ethereum, that will represent 0.66 DAI I can use. Okay, so बाकी जो है remaining percentage, it's kept, the Ethereum is kept. So in case the value of Ethereum starts to go up or down, you can use that buffer to either buy or sell or whatever with the Ethereum to make it to ensure that the DAI remains stable. Again, this is done algorithmically rather than someone doing it manually. But this is what we do in a DeFi situation, right? So we have smart contracts, we have stable coins, right? This is what the infrastructure or architecture, a complete architecture looks like. So you've got the blockchain. Here we're using, I'll give you an example of the Ethereum blockchain, which can write smart contracts. The yellow will represent DeFi elements. This is non-DeFi elements. उसमें assets आपके होते हैं, ठीक है? You can have stable coins on the blockchain. You can have asset-backed stable coins. Fiat-backed stable coins won't be, DeFi, because again, money is not centralized. And digital assets again are centralized because someone has to issue those digital assets. But mostly asset-backed stable coins or algorithmic stable coins are decentralized. You have a gateway, which is a wallet. As users, we have a wallet. उसमें ये पड़े होते हैं assets. ठीक है जी, और उससे आप जैसे आप वो पैसे वॉलेट से निकाल के कुछ खरीदते हैं, उससे आप डैप्स जो एप्लीकेशन है उनको आप उनसे एंगेज कर सकते हैं. सो यू कैन डू ट्रेड. सो डेक्स इज अ डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड एक्सचेंज which जहां आप क्रिप्टोस खरीद सकते हैं. So you use your wallet, your crypto wallet, to buy other cryptocurrencies. That's a decentralized exchange. Portfolio management, मैंने आपको example दिया था कि you can put money in and it will manage the portfolio of cryptocurrencies on its using algorithms and smart contracts. There are other credit, some people do give, it's called staking, or proof of stake and things like these. So you can do credits, derivatives, insurance. We will come on to certain examples of this a bit later. So this is the infrastructure. Again, blockchain होगी जिसपे आप सारे house करेंगे infrastructure. ठीक है, blockchain जो है वो एक that based on a programming language, you build smart contracts on that, applications on that. But you have host assets on it. You use wallets, digital wallets again, to deal with them. And again, I've got a question here. Stablecoins actually stablecoins defeat the purpose of cryptocurrencies, don't they? Well, it depends. If you're using dollars, like or there's something called the central bank CBDCs, central banks stable coins, which central banks issue, then they do, yes. But when you have them back, like I mentioned, with Ethereum or with what do you call it, other cryptos, no, they don't, because they're decentralized. There's no central bank which is issuing them. Okay? And the element is they're being used as a medium of exchange of money within that DeFi architecture. So you're not using dollars. It's not pegged, you're using actually these stable coins, right? And the governance of these stable coins, or that's another question. Oh, so that's the same question. That they don't generally. It really depends on what the stable coin represents. If it represents crypto, which are decent, the only thing maybe what you're referring to is the element that cryptocurrencies increase exponentially in value. It does defeat that purpose, because stable coins, as the name suggests, are to stabilize the currency, because me and some other parties want to do business transactions on the blockchain, right? That would defeat the purpose if, again, that, like I explained, that would defeat the purpose if the values start exponentially increasing. ठीक है, मैंने अगर एक चीज खरीदनी है $5 की, and overnight the value increases 5,000% or 1,000%, whatever, or 5,000 की होगी वो $5 की चीज, because I have held it in value was Ethereum or whatever, then of course that's not how business is done. That's how speculation is done, right? So it's not. So that's what I'm trying to go at. DeFi tries to replicate जो हमने कहा नहीं था शुरू में कि भाई साहब एक element of bank में trust होता है. You have people with money, you have people who have businesses or ideas or services which can be done through dApps, right? And then that's how you want a decentralized exchange, architecture to do all of the things that a bank does. I mean, you have trade finance use cases. We'll come on to, I think we have some use cases as well for finance later on, but we'll come on to some use. But people are working on trade finance. People are working on dApp treasury products, right? Portfolio management मैंने आपको बता दिया, but there are multiple use cases being explored by a lot of people. Now, see, governance किस तरह करेंगे? How do you do the governance? How does DeFi governance? It sounds good. Sometimes it sounds too good to be true. Again, two things. Of course, it's not. I'm not selling you a utopia where it's that this is the answer to all our financial woes, because they are obviously very serious concerns as well when it comes to DeFi, right? And I'll explain. But how do you do the governance of this? Who does what, right? आपने infrastructure architecture को देख लिया, but उसको किस तरह करेंगे हम? So in the first phase, जब आप शुरू करते हैं, in the beginning phase, you have operators who write the code. So that's the basic level. So the initial implementation is typically centralized governance, where the few people writing the code, writing the smart contract, and they directly control the changes. and and execute a smart contract. So what does that mean? So for example, if I want to say that interest rates increase, so anything which we want a new app, a new smart contract, pehle hum 5% de rahe the if someone banks with us, puts money, stakes money or whatever. Or yield farming is called staking. If you lock in your money, मैं कहता हूँ कि मैंने आपके साथ दो महीने 2 months, I'll put money with you for put my crypto, digital money, my crypto with you for 2 months, and through this smart contract, if you lock it up and I can't use it for 2 months, that's called staking, right? Uska return different hota hai. Yield farming is कि भाई साहब it's not locked, so I will put this with you, और उसमें daily rate होता है. You can take out your crypto anytime you want to buy something, to trade it with another crypto, to sell it for fiat, right? But while you're yield farming it, it's not locked, so you can use your crypto if you want to take it out. Again, the rate, as you would imagine, of return when staking is more than with what do you call it, yield farming. So we've got questions. What will be the monetary policy implications and how they would be counted in central bank money? Oh, dude, those are economic questions. And I try to run away from economic questions, but so monetary policy implications, look. There are a lot of central banks, including the Central Bank of Bahrain, who've got given regulations on a lot of things. Matlab abhi Dubai ne regulation bhi on digital assets, right? So they've given a regulation. I did a brief overview. I didn't read it in detail. So it really depends if your central bank thinks that there should be a legal tender, right? People should be allowed to go into this space. Number one, that's one. Can they stop them? No, I don't think they can stop them because this is not that easy to stop. But they can term this illegal, so that's something which is there. So monetary policy implications, again, it depends. If your central bank wants to issue its own stable coins, then it can probably run a digital economy. Same implications depending on what the economic situation is, I suppose. I mean, South Korea is a country which is much advanced than a lot of other countries in this space, right? So they've done a lot of examples. They have banks, right? Real bank branches on something called the Metaverse, which will come onto that. But let me think over it, and when we stop, I'll give you an answer while I'm thinking on it, because there are a lot of things I can answer. The way I can answer this from a consumer perspective, from a central bank perspective, and then the money. That's an interesting one where you say money supply. How will this be seen as money supply? Again, it's an interesting question. Let me think over it, and I'll come back to you on that one. So back to governance. Initial phases में इस तरह होती थी governance कि you had one person or a group of people writing the code, and they would say अच्छा अब हमने interest rate, for example, interest rate increase करना है, तो अब हमें नया smart contract बनाना है. So they would do it. Then the second was partially decentralized governance, right? Where we had people there were some voting rights. So people who held the tokens had some voting rights. For example, one token would represent one vote, 100 would represent 100 votes. So if there were 100%, right? उसमें से अगर I own 5% of the tokens, I would represent 5% of the vote, right? Even then, there was some veto powers given to the people who wrote, the operators, the code creators who set up this infrastructure. So they would have some veto power, right? So they may give power only to a few parameters. They can say, अच्छा आप ये चीजें खाली इस पे vote कर सकते हैं, changing the interest rate maybe, but not the services. कि खाली भाई हमने portfolio management जाना ही नहीं, हमने खाली yield farming or staking करनी है, and we'll only stick to this. So they said that only you can decide on what the rate of yield farming, for example, is. So this is the second layer of this was the second type of governance which evolved from the first one. And then we saw the decentralized autonomous organization, or the DAO. Here, token holders actually vote for anything and everything. So it's a decentralized governance. Decisions move fully to the community. So the community of token holders hold this, and they vote on anything and everything. They want a new service. They'll put up a vote. If everyone votes for it, then they'll develop it. The code creators or operators or people, whoever are dealing with it, will develop it. So that's completely a decentralized autonomous organization. You want to offer certain services, again, can be done. Now, this sounds good, but there's obviously a very glaring disadvantage to this, because when crypto was spoken of, when it was started, it was during 2008, 2009 financial crisis, when you saw the rich did get richer and the poor got squeezed, right? And they wanted decentralization because they saw that the central banks and governments work for the rich or facilitate the rich. So we want something decentralized. We don't believe in central banks. And we want the community to be involved. But the community is involved based on the amount of tokens they hold, right? So again, I have money in the real world. I buy these tokens. I can buy majority of the tokens, and I can literally hijack the system. I can make it more lucrative for me. So people can say that it's not a perfect. I mean, there are some glaring weaknesses which need to be addressed. I'll leave it at that. I mean, I'm not saying is it weak, is it not weak, but there can be issues which can be hijacked, or things can be done which are not very conducive to the initial philosophy of having decentralized finance. Potential Sharia use cases. When I was thinking about this and how to do this, I thought Sharia from a Sharia compliance perspective, itna zyada usme nahi jana chahta. Decentralized currency, can it be Sharia compliant? Does it have to be issued? A currency can only be Sharia compliant if it's only issued by a state, which of course is not. We've seen in the past. I mean, the Bosnian War hui thi, so cigarettes were a medium of exchange, currency thi nahi hua. So we've seen in the past, there have been other mediums of exchange. So but I won't go into the Sharia debate. That's a debate you can have with Sharia scholars. What I'll do is that how can we use the technology, provided if it's the scholars say that, let's assume that this system can work, the parameters, so long as they don't go against Sharia, this can work. So let's see how we can work. So first is real life assets and services need to be digitized on the blockchain, because obviously Islamic finance is based on real life assets. And of course, you've got your services that can be provided, number one. And more importantly, leveraging smart contracts, so that's something which is very important. So if you look at an Islamic finance transaction, there are multiple layers to an Islamic finance transaction. So you've got your Sharia principles, you've got your regulatory requirements, and you've got your standards. IOFI standards, IFSB standards, so you have to adhere to them as well. And if a transaction is deemed Sharia non-compliant, तो होता ये है कि the profit of it is written off to charity. It's called a charitable write-off. So you cannot, as a bank, leverage or benefit from it if a transaction is deemed Sharia non-compliant. This is from a report from IFSB. Unfortunately, this is from 2016, so these are slightly old numbers. I'm pretty sure the numbers have increased, by the way. But I have not come across any similar study or report from IFSB after this. But this is a 5-year study of 51 banks from around the world, seeing how much Sharia non-compliance income they collectively wrote off. This is millions, by the way. So over 5 years, 51 Islamic banks wrote off about $87 million worth of wrote off 87 million worth of transactions as charitable write-offs. So they couldn't profit off them, right? Which is a huge amount, which is a significant amount, and it's a leakage from the industry. 51 से तो बहुत ज़्यादा Islamic financial institutions हैं, banks हो गए, trade asset managers हो गए, other financial takaful operators. So you've got more than 51. So imagine this is a sample size of 51. Imagine how many globally, as an Islamic finance industry, how much amount is written off as charity, which is a leakage, right? Yes, charity is good, but not through operational negligence, right? So how do we deal with this? And this is where smart contracts are coming. Like we said, smart contracts are a set of rules or codes that define how a thing will move forward. Okay, अगर आपने ये किया, you cannot do XYZ, you can only do this, and that will trigger a B reaction, right? So smart contracts is this. अच्छा जी, अब एक example देता हूँ. So I'll give an example of an ijara transaction, which is a lease transaction, simple lease transaction called ijara. And the contract, the way it's done is that someone comes to me as a bank to lease an asset. So I have to buy that asset as a bank and then lease it to the customer. And then at the end, I'll sell it or gift it or whatever. What will make this Sharia compliance transaction non-compliant will be if I, as a bank, first sell it, just step by step follow karna tha, first sell it, first lease it, the asset, पहले वो sign हो गया contract lease का, बाद में जाके मैंने वो asset खरीदा. So step by step नहीं हुआ. You have to own the asset. I have to own something to lease. That's a very clear Islamic instruction, right? You can't just lease something you don't own, right? So first I have to buy the asset, then I have to lease it, right? If that doesn't happen, that transaction, Sharia compliant, would be written off. Now imagine if you incorporate smart contracts in this, right? You can't sell the asset till you do the first step, right? And you'll be surprised. I mean, you'll be thinking, Mujtaba, this is something very basic. Who makes these mistakes, right? You'll be surprised. Number one, you'll be surprised how many times you can come across this. How many times you come across clear negligence based on the fact that आपके Sharia board ने एक चीज clearly कहा है कि ये नहीं हो सकता और कितनी transactions में हो रही है. It's unfortunately not public knowledge because these are sometimes not reported by all banks, but you would be surprised. Although I gave a very simple example just to explain. But imagine leveraging off smart contracts here in this. Okay, we've gone to NFTs. Let me see. Sorry, we've got some questions. What if I invest in crypto and then start earning through lots staking? Is it possible that the digital coins just go dead? Well, it really depends. Like I would assume that Ethereum wouldn't. I would hope Ethereum and coins like Ethereum and Bitcoin won't. If you stake them, they won't. But I mean, if you stake Dogecoin, never know, or Shibu, I'd probably or any. I don't even want to name the others I've come across. You know, one would. I mean, you know, you saw that Will Smith when he slapped Chris Rock. I think there was a Will coin that came out as well. Now, if you stake a Will coin, I'm pretty sure that would go down in value to zero, right? Go dead value on valueless. So it really do your due diligence on what you're investing in, like you would do in real life. Don't just go on what people are saying. So that's just normal financial advice, you know. अच्छा जी, हम NFTs पे आते हैं. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, very interesting use cases. I love NFTs, by the way. I've invested in a few as someone who likes the medium, not more of a monetary play. It's more of that someone likes art and stuff, right? Why is it working? Okay. Right. So NFTs, non-fungible tokens. NFT is a term. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to explain it. Yeah. So NFT is a term used to describe a unique, non-fungible digital asset, mostly art. Mostly, I use mostly, not always. Digital asset whose ownership is recorded on the blockchain, on a blockchain. This is a powerful medium that allows anyone to create, own, and trade digital assets whose provenance, history of ownership, and rarity can be easily verified. And it goes without saying, jitna rare ek NFT hoega in a say for example, you have CryptoPunks, right? The cheapest one costs $30,000, right? Some of the things, if you ask me what drives the value, speculation at best, man. Look, I mean, so some of them, the value of some of these NFTs, Bored Ape Yacht Club. I mean, the cheapest one is $100,000. It's just a JPEG. It's just a picture, right? I mean, I know I said I love the medium, but I don't love the fact that if a picture is worth $100,000, right? And that's the cheapest one. We've got some that have sold for millions, right? And I'm sure some of you who have gone into the space know already. So NFTs, again, because they're on the blockchain, they're unique. What drives them, or what makes them NFTs? So uniqueness, scarcity, authenticity, ownership. Aapki hoti hai. You can say that I am the owner on the blockchain, immutable. Okay? So interoperability, that I can trade that, I can sell it to other people. And then there's obviously transparency that comes with the immutability. Okay, by ye hala NFT I own, Mujtaba Khalid owns in his wallet. No one can take it. There have been hacks, so I know there have been hacks, but that can be with anything. There have been financial frauds as well. Conventional, like not digital, but financial fraud bureaus out there. So that's something different, right? So these are some of the things that define it. I'll go to the use cases, prominent, and then I'll go to examples, right? That's where it gets interesting. NFTs can be used as, how much time do I have? That's just one thing. So NFTs.
We still have 20 minutes.
Got it. Thank you. I'll try to keep it in 20 minutes. When I start speaking, I just go on and on. But you're lucky, Rose, to main ta bolunga nahi. So there are a few. There are multiple use cases, and there's still use cases coming up every day. Matlab kal Visa or MasterCard issued NFTs. BIBF, I'll tell you on the ADF when I come to that. We issued an NFT last month as well, which was through the Islamic Center. So digital art, collectibles, NFTs can be used as authentic digital art. Collectibles, can be social tokens. So some person, digital artist, can create a community, offer these tokens, social tokens as NFTs, and then you can buy his or her art through these tokens. Again, gaming is a very big market for NFTs. Jaise agar koi PUBG, have you heard of PUBG? Usme you can buy clothes and skins for your characters, right? But that's within the PUBG ecosystem. You can't use it outside. But what we're evolving through is, kya wo clothes apne kisi aur game mein bhi leke ja sakte. You can buy this as an NFT. You can use it in different games as your character, right? So that's where we're evolving to. We're not there yet, but that's what we're going towards. So people buy NFTs for games. Fashion and luxury will come on to the next slide. We'll show that's a big use case. Sports. I've got a very interesting sports example. Stick with me in the second slide after this, the slide after this slide. I love that example. I'm sure you will love it. I'm pretty sure you'll love it as well. Sports. And then of the virtual world, you can use NFTs in the metaverse as well. So you can hold them on your wallet. You can put them in your virtual world and the metaverse. We'll come on to that as NFTs, as arts as well. You can display them. These digital collectibles. See, in March 2021, a digital artwork every day, the first 5,000 days by digital artist Mike Winkelmann, sold for $69 million. So these group of 5,000 pictures stitched together sold for 69 million. It's digital. Matlab asal bhi nahi hai. Matlab it's housed on the blockchain. It's not a physical thing. It sold for $69 million. Take it. CryptoPunks, I mentioned, again, is these JPEGs, pixelated characters, in 2017, exploded. The cheapest CryptoPunk costs $30,000. The rarest costs $10,000. Okay, so a rare CryptoPunk will cost $10 million. Sorry, $10 million. Just a JPEG, right? Bored Ape, everyone's heard of, I suppose, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is a fixed supply of 10,000 Bored Apes, which you can see here. So they have different faces or whatever, 10,000 of these. They hit an all-time trading high by March 2022 of $2.6 billion. The total value of these Bored Apes is $2.6 billion. And the thing is, this is interesting. Bored Ape Yacht Club is interesting. Initially, it was very cheap. Then a lot of famous people, celebrities got on board. They hyped it up. And then why is it called the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Because it gives you some real life uses. It's connected to some real life uses. If you have a Bored Ape, which is called, you can attend parties and yachts in the US, private parties. You'll have Snoop Dogg, all of these people, they attend those parties, right? So this people buy it for that esteem, that prestige value. We can mingle with famous celebrities, because the celebrities, Eminem owns one. I think Snoop Dogg also owns one. I know definitely they launched one for Eminem specifically. And they hold parties for like-minded people to get together. It's a very exclusive thing, by the way. Gaming, I mentioned Kachuga. There's an example of gaming mainstream origins. I think it started, blockchain gaming started with CryptoKitties, where these cats by Dapper Labs in 2017. So you can purchase these cats and then you can breed them, and they can vary on characteristics, rarity, but that's the only thing you can do. There's no aim of the game. It's just about evolving. So with your cat, you can mix and match two cats and make another cat, but that's about it. And the rarity depends on what characteristics the new cat gets. But again, there are multiple examples of NFTs in gaming. This was the first. That's why I wanted to use it. Okay, it's ugly slide about it. Sorry. So fashion and luxury में काफी use हुए हैं NFTs, right? And I'll come on to why it's relevant to banking as well. So don't worry if in case someone asks me, well, is he supposed to talk about banking? But again, I'm just trying to get what NFTs are, and then we'll say what the use cases in banking are, right? Adidas recently announced an NFT collection titled Into the Metaverse. So 30,000 NFTs उन्होंने launch किए थे and within the afternoon, all of them were sold out, 30,000 of them. And the interesting thing was they had a real life use case. अगर आप वो NFT खरीदते, तो अगर आपने एक जूता खरीदा, तो उसका real life में भी they were linked to that. So they had physical clothing to match that NFT. So they launched like a fashion line which had a physical presence and also a digital presence, right? Gucci attracted headlines when a single bag sold for $4,000. So this is a digital bag, not to be used in a video game called Roblox, which sold. This is it, $4,000. This sold for $4,000. It's a crazy space. Okay, so how do I make sense of it? I don't sometimes. The economics can give. Someone asked me what are the economic implications. I don't know because such a crazy space. Someone is paying $69 million for a digital piece, or a JPEG, right? Which I can copy, right? So I just showed you that. It's not like मैं देख नहीं सकता, ठीक है? So right now the economic implications are very interesting, right? But what they are can be multiple things, and we'll come on to the discussion then. ठीक है जी, Gucci introduced this. Nike acquired a digital sneaker maker, so these digital sneakers are already only have a digital presence. Ralph Lauren launched its new store on the Roblox. Again, it's a video game, and my daughters play though. That video game, it's like VR plus. It can be augmented reality through your iPad as well. And they launched winter wear in the metaverse for under $5. So your character, as you can see, on the polo Ralph Lauren ke kapde pehne huए. So this is again in fashion they've been using. It has NFTs have been used to create marketing buzz. So a leading brand could, even in Pakistan, a leading brand could collaborate with famous traditional artists, जैसे मुल्तान की जो होती है या सिंध की अपनी होती है, so that's missing, right? This is a digital opportunity. You can, and there's no NFTs of Pakistani traditional art, right? That's a business idea. If someone steals that, you're paying me royalties, by the way. So that's something people can even what do you call it? Banks as a CSR. ठीक है, आपके कोई art forms हैं जो खरीद लो, ठीक है? As a CSR, what banks can do is they can, and this is marketing, completely marketing, but this will get international media buzz as well, right? And it won't cost a lot of money because बेचारे artists को कितने के पैसे देंगे आप? $1 million तो देंगे नहीं, ठीक है? बहुत हो गया 50,000, 2 लाख देंगे, ठीक है? So you can create digital assets, right? Based on their art, right? Put it on as NFTs. They get a share of that NFTs. You're partnering with it. It can be a very good marketing campaign, right? So creating marketing buzz, event ticketing, and driving loyalty. So again, a brand could launch a special edition product or event where NFTs used as gatekeep access, right? It can be double as a ticket. So you buy an NFT ticket, you will not only have that digital art, but if you own it, like Bored Ape Yacht Club has, you can have a QR code embedded in it, which you can show to enter that event, right? Sports NFTs offer fans a chance to acquire licensed digital media of their favorite sports moments, including limited edition video clips, player cards, or game-related artifacts. NBA started with a lot of these video clips. ICC जो है हमारी दुनिया, मतलब ICC International Cricket Council, उन्होंने NFT बनाया, लॉन्च किया, जो शाहीन अफरीदी की जो T20 वर्ल्ड कप में विकेट ली थी रोहित शर्मा की पहले ओवर में, ठीक है? That's an NFT now, so you can buy it as an NFT. So that's something I love. That, by the way, I love the ball. I love everything about that NFT. I love the use case, everything about it. right? So, so that's an interesting example. So that's a use case in sports, right? I mentioned, so in real world as well, they're establishing its NFTs again. Like what I'm going at is from thought process perspective, it's a bridge between the digital world and the real world. You can have it in the digital world, but it can have a bridge toward real life use cases. Yeah. So it's a way of tokenizing. Tokenized as some financial term is securitized कहते हैं. So you can, it's a way of tokenizing physical property so that it can be uniquely identified in a digital realm, traded, governed. You know, tokenized का मतलब है कि if I say this mouse, right? If I have a mouse, 10 tokens represent this mouse. If someone buys 2 tokens, so I launched these tokens as NFTs. If someone buys those 2 tokens, they own 20% of this mouse. So a physical asset. That's a use case, right? Sukuk, just so they've crowdfunded sukuks, which can be linked to NFTs, retail sukuks, you know, rather than it's again taking the middleman out. You can do crowdfunding, right? ArtsDAO is a part NFT project. Is part NFT fund manager providing fractional ownership. ArtsDAO is based in the Middle East. It's basically providing fractional ownership of NFTs for end users. So what they did was कि भाई साहब अगर Bored Ape Yacht Club आपका $1 million का है या $30,000 का है, I can't or someone can't afford that, so they can buy a percentage of that. So people, it's like a portfolio manager, Kevin, ठीक है? So investors, I want कि मुझे पता है कि Bored Ape Yacht Club will go up in value by 100% because it's NFTs, the space to be at, whatever, you know. So I want a piece of that action, but I can't afford $30,000. So through ArtsDAO, I will buy 10%, 20% of it, and then that 20% will double. For example, if the value of the NFT goes to 100%, increases by 100%, so on and so forth. So it's making NFTs accessible, right? It also helps aspiring artists and creators launch themselves in the NFT space, which is very nice. BIBF launched, so if you look at BIBF, we launched these 8 unique NFTs. What these represent, so when you come into the BIBF building, there's a big digital cube in the middle of it. So all 6 sides are digital screens. It's huge, and we can put anything on it. So what I thought was those digital cube को NFTs में लेके जाते हैं. So each of this cost $1,000. By the way, ADIF launch करें. So this is linked to the ADIF. ADIF in itself would cost, distance learning cost $1,500. If you buy this, you can do the ADIF for $1,000. And till you hold this on your wallet, you get 50% off on all Islamic banking courses in BIBF. Trainings, capacity building, all of them, you get 50% off. So this was something we thought of. We got great media highlights because this was the first ever educational use NFT launched in the world. Islamic banking, definitely, but even in the space, in this space, education space, this was the first use case NFTs launched. Actually, quickly, because I have limited time, but I will continue, so don't worry. This is important as well. So decrypting NFTs. So मैंने बताया था, what is metadata? What does an NFT represent? Yes, it represents an image, right? उसके पीछे क्या? What's the back end of the NFT? What is on the blockchain and what isn't on the blockchain? Now, unfortunately, I would say that most NFT artworks are off-chain, right? What that means is that this is not stored on the blockchain. This image is not stored. This image you see of the Bored Ape, this is not stored on the blockchain. What is stored is the metadata. So number 2, देख रहे हैं ना, जो ये is the metadata. What that shows, so image where it's where it's held, उसका जो URL है, traits, attributes, codes, black holes, trait type eyes, bloodshot, background blue, earring gold hoop, fur red, mouth bored. So it's describing the attributes. Now this is an NFT which can cost upwards of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. और जो blockchain में खाली चीज है वो ये है, immutable, right? And this is a quote which I wanted to share, which actually hits the nail in the head on the risks of NFTs. So instead of storing data on chain, NFTs instead contain a URL that points to the data. what surprised me about the standards was that there's no hash commitment or data located at the URL, so there's nothing as such, but apart from ये जो क्या नाम लेते हैं, the image, right? Look at many of the just the image. So ये image है, इसका data, इसका URL ये, right? Looking at the many of the NFTs on popular marketplaces being sold for tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, with URL often just points to some VPS, virtual private server. So it's like a server होता है physical, उसमें से आप ले लेते हैं कि भाई 20% of this is mine, right? Virtually, right? There are other people using it. So a VPS running Apache is a server software somewhere. Anyone with access to that machine, anyone who buys the domain name in the future, or anyone who compromises the machine can change the image, title, description, etc. for the NFT to whatever they like at any time, regardless of whether or not they own the token. This is alarming, because what the NFT holds is the URL. इधर पड़ा है, ये उसका URL है. अब ये देखें, example, clothes, black holes, right? अच्छा, इस image में black holes towards the shoulder है, ठीक है? Image, क्योंकि metadata तो ये कह रहा है clothes, black holes, right? That doesn't tell me anything, right? So I can edit the image and put black hole somewhere else. Would that mean it's the same image? Okay, do I still on the blockchain the data remains the same? Blockchain को मैं नहीं छेड़ रहा, क्योंकि blockchain immutable है, like we discussed. Blockchain पे data एक बार चला गया, वो immutable है. It's very hard to change that data. But this is the metadata is on the blockchain. So either earring value gold hoop. अच्छा, gold hoop का size इतना है. Can I increase it exponentially on size? It doesn't say size इतना होना चाहिए. Red for red. अच्छा, red color है, but कोई भी color, I can do any red color, right? So this is where one of the drawbacks of an NFT can be. Other things are quickly, so wash trading is simple. In simple terms, my artist too, I put my NFT on the blockchain or whatever I wanted to, or a marketplace, I wanted to increase in value. So I start doing, क्योंकि blockchain also stores कि पिछली sales क्या थी, कि इस sale पे इस price से बेचा, इस price पे, तो मैं dummy transactions करता हूँ, which can be of high value. मैं करता हूँ पहली $10,000 की, अगली ट्रांजैक्शन करता हूँ किसी और वॉलेट से, डिजिटल वॉलेट से $15,000 की, ठीक है, फिर $20,000 की. So that will drive up, not organically, but in a fake way, drive up the value of that NFT. So CryptoSlam, an NFT analytics site, examined a week's worth of blockchain data for one of the NFT collections, MeBits, on an NFT marketplace called Luxray, and found that almost 94% of more than 2 billion worth of NFTs transacted during the period were wash traded. 94% were wash traded. So you can imagine, the drawbacks of that. Counterfeiting, again, मैंने जैसे पहले कहा कि भाई एक बार आपने डाल दिया on chain भी, for example, art piece, वो immutable है. मगर हमें कैसे पता कि वो मेरा ही है? मैं किसी का लेके डाल दूं blockchain पे, off chain जो चीज fraud हो रहा है या वो, how do you deal with that? एक बार ऑन चेन चला गया, फिर immutable है, मुज्तबा ने डाला तो वो मुज्तबा बेच सकता है, राइट? मगर अगर मैंने किसी का चोरी करके मैंने नहीं, किसी ने किसी के लिए चोरी किया, फ्रॉड किया, या वही पीस मोनालिसा डाल दी, ठीक है, तो how would we define that element, right? What are the legal implications of that? Of course, there are now like, for example, digital marketplaces like OpenSea, which try to address this through algorithms, AI, artificial intelligence, but still, it's a long way to go, right? Still not there yet. And rug pulls, of course, rug pull are so creators of a project can hype it, say कि यार इस ये project आ रहा है, इसमें ये भी हम डालेंगे, इससे use case ये होएगा, off chain use cases ये होंगे, आप ये building खरीद सकते हैं, वो सारा करके पैसे लेके crypto में लेके, then they just disappear. They just disappear from the ecosystem. That results in the NFT or tokens too, because they get the fiat money. अगर आपको कोई NFT token बेच रहा है, तो आप उसको Ethereum पे करें, वो Ethereum fiat money में लेके फिर भाग सकते हैं, right? So again, this is something which can happen as well. Potential Sharia compliance use cases. So there are many, and again, you probably have better use cases than I do. So think about them, but they can be different. For example, fractional ownership of digital or real life projects or assets. Like I said, they can be based on musharaka, all of that. So they can be real life ownership or digital ownership through Musharraf or whatever. It's just how you make the smart contract. Crowdfunded real life projects or social development. Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, that's an example. So Ukraine and artists in Ukraine, artists from Ukraine or outside have launched a lot of digital NFTs for the percentage going to the wallet, the digital wallet of the official Ukrainian government. I think they've raised 20 million, 2 million, I don't know how many $million of that. So अगर वो social cause के लिए हो सकता है और चीजों के लिए भी हो सकता है. Zakat के लिए, charitable social cause के लिए, I don't know. So you can have different social causes linked to it. You can have for-profit causes as well. You can have your first NFT sukuk, so digital or fractional ownership of real-life project, crowd-funded sukuk. The possibilities are endless. And of course, you can have Sharia-compliant banking services for digital assets. There are some banks who offer digital services for digital assets to own them, to finance them. So this is something that can be done as well, right? So I've got just the metaverse. So I'm almost done. Wasim साहब अगर आप मुझे 10 minutes और देते हैं तो मैं continue कर रहा हूँ. Web 3.1 metaverse.
I'm comfortable. Madam Sadar, is it okay?
Ji, please.
Just I'm on the metaverse, so almost done. Well, I'm not in the metaverse, I'm on the metaverse. By the way, the metaverse is interesting. I bought the Oculus last week, and usme there's a cricket game. It's just you're just there. Like it's amazing. It's fantastic. By the way, so what is the metaverse? To understand the metaverse, let's understand web and Web 3.0. The first online internet web presence was very static. Static का मतलब है कि उसमें मतलब 90s में जो था there were very few content creators और publish करते थे वो website, वो उससे आप engage नहीं कर सकते, आप बस पढ़ सकते थे data mostly. ठीक है, Yahoo पे भी AOL and all of that, if I remember correctly, these were early days. We used to use Netscape, if I remember, yeah, that Netscape जो आपका था browser, which we used to use back in the day. तो उसमें था कि it lacked algorithms, उसमें user engagement कम थी. I could just read data. उसमें small group of people created content. Majority of the data came from directories. So this was the first iteration of the web. The second was more user based. ठीक है, आपके पास Facebook आया, YouTube आया, मैं अपना content डाल सकता हूँ, Instagram पे डाल सकता हूँ, मैं YouTube पे अपनी videos डाल सकता हूँ, मैं engage कर सकता हूँ और लोगों के साथ. मैं वहां से content उठा के दूसरी apps में डाल सकता हूँ. मैं जो है आपका न्यूज़ आर्टिकल WhatsApp पे भी शेयर कर सकता हूँ, Facebook पे भी लगा सकता हूँ, Instagram पे उसकी पिक्चर लगा सकता हूँ. So it was very much user based, but the data of all the users is housed centrally, right? With Facebook, Google, all of these companies, they have your data, right? So it's the data, my personal data. The content is spread, but the personal data is not that much, right? The Web 3.0, which is the next iteration are going to be, is big on AI, big on the fact that my data will be with me, and how I use it with other people, how I engage with other businesses, I will be able to determine that through the AI platform, through the AI, let's say, partner. So the Web 3 is the next evolution of the internet. It will make the internet much smarter. Again, 5G will make it more accessible, because this will be a lot of data going back and forth, not just like YouTube video. It will be your position, very unique to you, all your data, like data points. So there will be a lot of stuff going back and forth. Businesses will be engaging with you. You'll have in the future augmented reality glasses. ठीक है, तो उसमें आप देख सकते हैं जैसे आप मुझे देख रहे हैं, बट उसके साथ आपको साइड पे चीजें भी नजर आ सकती हैं. So you have augmented reality glasses as well, and metaverse. In the next page I'll come up to that. So both machines and humans will be involved in the content creation and decision making processes. Abhi I decide, as scary as it may sound, like abhi मैं decide करता हूँ ना कि ये picture मैंने Facebook पे लगानी है, इस picture को मैंने public करना है, इस picture को मैंने ये मेरी family की है तो मैंने public नहीं करना, for example, right? But then that's dependent on me. Web 2.0. Web 3.0 will have AI as well, artificial intelligence embedded in it. So it will make decisions based on my preferences. It will already know what to do, right? This is where near human-like intelligence, right? So we're working towards that. Are we there yet? No, we're not, but we're working towards that. We're not 100% there yet. Of course, I'm sure some labs are working on stuff like this, but we're not as a mass adoption, we're not there yet. But this is where the metaverse comes in. So what is the metaverse? The metaverse usually use a virtual 3D environment to experience Web 3.2. Because VR set hoega, and you're in that virtual environment. It's the real Web 3.0 experience. You can, mingle, socialize. You can do work. You can play games. You can do sports. You can watch Netflix. All of these in the metaverse. And I'll show you some pictures. And you can experience through a VR headset or a computer. So you don't need a VR headset. Also a computer was augmented reality. You call it augmented reality. There are multiple metaverse platforms. Facebook changed its name to Meta, as you may know, and Mark Zuckerberg has invested big on this, right? So the metaverse platform use cases can started with gaming, but it can go beyond social interaction as well, right? These are some examples of work in the metaverse. These all people are working in the metaverse. They've got their screens. यहाँ एक Skype call भी हो रही है, यहाँ Zoom meeting हो रही है, जैसे हम कर रहे हैं. ठीक है जी, you can imagine, this is metaverse experience. So imagine we teleport digitally to a remote location for an interactive shared experience. And all of these people are not in the office; they're working from home probably, and that's the whole selling point. You engage as teams, you work with people, but you don't have a physical space, an office space. Bring your desk, computer, and keyboard into a virtual environment. Sketch out ideas on a virtual whiteboard together with your team. Share meeting notes and files, configure virtual room layout, room layouts, because it can simply just socialize with people, right? So this is from a work perspective. This is some financial use cases which have already started happening. So JP Morgan made headlines when they launched a presence, the Onyx Lounge on the metaverse in Decentralized. So this is the biggest US bank by asset open a virtual lounge named Onyx Lounge. The Onyx Lounge will enable JP Morgan to operate like a bank in the virtual world, just like it does in the real world. Currently, when you go there, you see that is a Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO head of JP Morgan. Uski pixelated picture lagi hoegi. There's a tiger roaming about, and then if you go, it's a two-story experience. When you go up the stairs, history of JP Morgan has some of the products. So right now it's still in its infancy as an implementation, but that's the idea, that you can operate it like a bank, right? BNP Paribas, right? So it's not a lot. Its first attempt was not in the metaverse, but it was a VR attempt where they can hold what you call meetings. So if you're a customer, you can meet them virtually. You can meet the relationship manager virtually in there. A VR environment, right? And you can see that you can also look at your bank details and stuff in this virtual environment, right? So real estate purchase. So this is what, and then what they want to do is to make this more of a virtual presence, right? But the biggest use case, I suppose, comes from South Korea. South Korea is building a financial sector in the metaverse, right? South Korea is one of the emerging players, like I mentioned earlier. It's doing great in what do you call it, in the metaverse space. So there are a few examples which we can cite. So KB Kookmin Bank has developed a pilot virtual financial town operational since July 21, which includes a financial and business center composed of virtual branches, public relations and recruitment booths, auditoriums, virtual auditorium event kar sakte hain, a telecommuting center to facilitate communication collaboration across their workers who are not at home and office workers who are working from home and office workers, right? So there was एक customers के लिए है, एक उनके workers के लिए working space है where people who are working from home can collaborate with people who are in the office. Hana FG and Shinan FG are also exploring the metaverse to offer millennials, Gen users. Remember I said that Islamic banking के जो सबसे और Islamic countries में जो demographic young population सबसे ज़्यादा है, कोरिया में इतनी young population नहीं है, but still they understand the fact that the importance of a young consumer. Because I remember I used to have a British colleague, and he said that, look, I've changed my wife multiple times, but I haven't changed my bank ever since I started with HSBC, right? So people very rarely change banks, right? So once you get someone hooked or as your customer and they're happy with the service, that's a lifelong relationship. And given the fact that a lot of the population is very young, if you capture them in the Islamic finance space as a bank, as your customer, then it's very hard to lose them over the long run. So that's why people in the banks and financial institutions are trying to offer millennials and Gen Z customers a digital platform for virtual bank branches. VR means virtual reality based financial servicing, financial education through VR. Woori Bank has joined a broader community initiative, Metaverse-Alliance, with over 400 companies. So beyond, just the bank, platform create a metaverse broader than just banking. So brokerage firms, you've got Shin and Cards plans to launch prepaid cards for virtual and real world use cases. So Korea is very developed, and some of these examples can be addressed by Islamic finance as well. Sharia compliant use cases. So whoever takes this first user advantage of being the first Islamic finance institution in the metaverse, again, it will signal to the market in itself, get free marketing publicity, significant international coverage, and signal that it is a tech leader in the space. It's trying new things, right? You can interact, like I mentioned, with your younger customers. You can have digital apps. So you know how a lot of banks have their digital apps. उसमें एक आप tab डाल सकते हैं कि have a meeting virtually. So you can have a tab, you can schedule a meeting on the VR set with a customer representative, and your young customer, a millennial or Gen Z guy, he can also meet you virtually in the metaverse or a virtual environment. Possibly can be the first Islamic bank to finance digital assets and offer banking for a digital space, maybe a later strategy. This is an example of what we're doing. We're trying to hold the first ever Islamic banking conference in the metaverse. This is all done for that event, all the signage and everything. So this is what we're trying to do, inshallah, later on in the year. All of you are invited. If you have a VR headset, all of you are invited. And this is where I'll finish, I think. This is the last slide, and I'll finish. And I will leave it to Ms. Sadaf and Ms. Simsab to
thank you, sir. This was very interesting topic, and it seems that it is such an emerging field, and a lot of research and study needs to go into this. That's why we are organizing these sessions. NFT and DeFi definitely seem to be emerging as a strong use case in future, as it seems more inclusive and exciting, I think. With this, I would like to invite Sajid Ali. He is Director, Learning and Development Department in NIBAF, and for a vote of thanks. And sir, over to you, please.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you, Mr. Khalid. बहुत very interesting and very thoughtful. जो आपने start में कहा था ना कि आपने technical में ज़्यादा नहीं जाना, आपने जो लोगों को simple आपने क्या वो tips देने हैं जिसके वो सोचना शुरू करें. So it was very interesting. And technology के अंदर जिस चीज़ से changes आ रही हैं, जिस space से changes आ रही हैं, तो उसके साथ mesh करना it's really very very challenging. और ऐसी कंडीशन के अंदर अगर जिसने पहले से पढ़ा हो आकर आपके साथ नॉलेज शेयर कर ले, तो इस बड़ा एक होता है कि एक बड़ा पैकेज आपको मिल जाता है एक साथ. तो एक घंटे के अंदर 2:30 बजे से लेकर अभी तक बैठे हुए इस 1.5 घंटे के अंदर आपने काफी एरियाज को कवर किया. आई एम वेरी वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू यू कि इट शोज योर पैशन कि आपने काफी चीजें कवर की हैं और बड़े पैशन के साथ उसको आपने शेयर किया अपनी नॉलेज को. सर्टेनली बहुत सारी चीजें. सबसे अहम जो चीज कल के आ रही थी वही कि डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ एसेट्स. आई थिंक आप यू हैव टू कम अप विद आइडियाज कि आपके पास कौन सी चीजें इसको अपने एसेट में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं और उसको कैसे डिजिटाइज कर सकते हैं. दिस इज द बेसिक पूरे इसके अंदर. और आई एम श्योर कि जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं दे विल हैव बहुत सारे इनको टिप्स मिल रहे होंगे और उसकी बेसिस के ऊपर वो सोचेंगे कि आगे कैसे जो लैंडस्केप जो है खासतौर पर नॉट जस्ट इस्लामिक बैंकिंग बल्कि ओवरऑल फाइनेंशियल इंडस्ट्री का लैंडस्केप किस तरह से चेंज हो रहा होगा. I would like to thank my Sadaf and Ahmed Wasim and the technical team which was responsible. उन्होंने बहुत सारे steps लिए इसके पीछे, बहुत सारे responsibilities उन्होंने लिए. Mujtaba, thanks a lot. Thanks. आपका भी बहुत शुक्रिया, BIBF भी बहुत शुक्रिया. They've always been very supportive to NIBAF. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you all the
participants.
participants as well. Thank you.